I love how my dog is sitting like a human right now.
That's pretty great. He looks very regal.
Here you go, buddy. I'm proud of you.
Dude, so I heard or I saw, so you're doing a new series, I guess, for Valhalla?
Yeah, I'm working on a new series.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, man. Started experimenting with it earlier this year. Had a painting idea that I was working on like back in 2019 that I just got so busy that I never really got around to. And so I kind of looked back into it and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And it kind of just explores. So I have a couple of art mentors and they say that my art is a little too timeless and it's a little too subtle. And so I'm working on being more bold, but at the same time, I can't help but be timeless, if that makes sense. And so this series is just kind of exploring, what the human experience from like artistic, philosophical lens. That ego mortem painting with the cow skull is all about life and death, and it just kind of is a humanist way of showing life and death, kind of like how you that one was inspired by Kurt Vonnegut, actually. I think it was
cool.
Slaughterhouse Five.
Fuck yes, dude. One of my favorite books.
The dude meets, yeah, dude, fucking great. The dude like keeps jumping in and out of time, and like he meets these aliens that live in like the fourth dimension, and so they don't see people as like
the
a person moving in space.
The Tralfalmadorians.
Yes, thank you. The Tralfalmadorians. Yes. Fuck yeah. I wasn't gonna remember that. And
hey,
and
so it goes.
They see. So it goes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I was like, well, I can just show life and death together. And the background of that is it an abstract yin and yang? It's just white and black splattered paint, just and so it's using polarities to create a unifying whole. And so it's like that ego mortem painting, life and death are connected as one person. The second one I'm working on right now, which I can send you a photo of, is kind of like just like what it means to be human, and just the encompassing ebbs and flows of like our morality. And so it shows it's the same person, shows them 3 times, kind of in like a totem pole, and it shows like a lower form and a higher form, kind of like a down and depressed and a higher enlightened form, and then the central figure, which just kind of is like the present form. And so it's just kind of like this ebb and flow of like what the kind of emotions and headspaces we go throughout our existence.
That's very interesting, and that also connects pretty well with Slaughterhouse Five, because that's how they describe, or that's how Vonnegut describes essentially how the Tralfalmadorians view mortal people. It's basically a long caterpillar with the baby at the bottom, and then it slowly grows into an adult human, and then slowly diminishes down into the old person that eventually dies. So that's basically the same idea, but it's just sort of flipped 90 degrees. So it's like a totem pole, and just the different stages of how you sort of move through life. That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Thanks. And that one's really cool because like I'm trying to just be like more bold and like throw more symbolism into my work. And so it's like, it's not only just a story of like an individual, but it's a story of humankind. And so like down at the bottom of the feet. So this totem pole is enmeshed in like a weird forest. It's gonna be cool.
Nice.
And in the forest are going to be there's a Neanderthal skull and an Australopithecus skull, and then there's like a Statue of Liberty and like a statue of Jesus, kind of in the like kind of ruinous in the forest. And then behind on the wall, I actually did some petroglyphic painting, and so I ground up some red ochre, mixed it in water, and actually like aerosoled my hand onto the like with a straw.
Cool.
And then I'm gonna do like a DNA strand like in the outer space. I mean, I don't know what it looks like in your head right now, but I'll show you a picture sometime.
I think
it's still kind of in its infancy.
I think I'm sort of picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. And all my art is pretty, it's also heavily drug related as well. Our conversations about the relations of psychedelics and religion. So there's mushrooms growing off of people, which is pretty cool. I'm going to send you a photo. I know the viewers can't see it, but you can throw it on.
No, I can edit it in. It in. That's a tough word to say.
Go ahead and edit it in, man.
Edit it in.
Edit it in.
No, that's sick, dude. And that's sort of like you said, like that's what a lot of our conversations have been. Like the what was the name of that first painting you were talking about? The one with the
Ego Mortem.
Ego Mortem, yeah. But that's essentially what the idea, that idea of life and death and the balance and sort of the mixing of bipolar isn't really the right word, but it kind of is. The polaristic kind of nature of how we try and view things, the black and white kind of thing. And then we've talked about Baphomet pretty extensively, and that's kind of that idea of like what the yin and the yang is, what Baphomet is, what a lot of these kind of like really ancient fundamentals of especially more of the sort of Eastern mysticism kind of religions, is more of that sort of balance between the good and the evil, like the yin and the yang. You know, the white is still encompassing a circle of dark. Same thing with, on the black side of the yin and the yang, there is still a little bit of light. And like we sort of touched on the last episode is like, the idea of nobody and nothing is 100% one thing or the other. And it's just about where those sort of gray areas lie. I thought about this idea just a couple of days ago. So in this kind of postmodern kind of culture, and a lot of the theories behind postmodernism is the breaking down of categorization, where things are no longer necessarily like fit into a box of, A and B. But sometimes I feel like that can be taken too far, where like you still functionally need some sort of categorization to get around in the world. And I was thinking about a good metaphor for that is, I guess clay would be a good example. Like, is clay a solid or is clay a liquid? You know what I mean? It's sort of in that gray area in between.
It's a sockwood.
It's a sockwood. I like that. Sockwood. That sounds like a terrible brand for fucking like beat up Hanes socks. I don't know. Terrible.
Sockwood.
Moving on. So like, I don't know. Because there are certain things that are not quite a liquid or not quite a solid, does that mean we would just want to throw out the entire category of solids versus liquids? Just because there is a slight weird gray area sort of in between the two with certain and like certain like sort of, I guess they call them metamaterials or something, where they exist sort of in between this state of solid and liquid, depending on temperature. State of
potentiality almost.
Yeah. So it's like
so isn't the whole? Go ahead.
I'm just saying you can't necessarily put them in one box or the other.
Yeah.
So do we just get rid of the whole idea of having boxes in general to categorize things? And I feel like there's a lot of our culture today where like they kind of want to get rid of that, get rid of all boxes, and nobody is labeled anything. But that's not how our brains essentially function. Our brains compartmentalize things into categories because it makes it so much easier for computing. So that's a weird balance, I guess.
Totally. I mean, that's right. That's evolutionary as well, right? Because you're going to have to categorize what you can eat and what you can't eat. So it's, isn't the whole postmodernist kind of philosophy though based on saying, okay, well, and we'll use categories. It's like, well, the world is not made up of categories, right? We compartmentalize everything. And so everything seems categorical to us because we cannot hope to kind of see outside of our lenses. Mm-hmm. But the world itself is not categorized in any sort of manner that we put on it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think that's, like you said, it's an issue with how our brains function evolutionarily. So we need to be able to distinguish something as a threat or a non-threat. Mm-hmm, saber-toothed cat, that's a fucking threat. We need to make sure we categorize that.
Stay away from that fucking thing.
Yeah. Whereas, I don't know.
You don't have to stay away from this. If you see this, you can hang out with this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't eat it though. Just love it.
Yeah.
Loki butt. Right? Stay away from saber-toothed tigers, buddy. Sorry. He's just so cute.
Adorable. I think that'll probably up our view count if we that might be the thumbnail is Loki sitting.
That should be the thumbnail for sure.
Yeah. Special guest Loki. I'm not even going to mention you that you're in there.
Dude, just have his screenshot the whole time I'm talking.
Animate a mouth over his mouth. That just is making sounds.
His ponytail sucks.
Dude, mix it up, bro. Mix it up.
Postmodernists.
Yeah, it's a weird because everything does exist within sort of a grand spectrum. Nothing is black or white, but we still kind of have to, just to get through life, be able to categorize things in that kind of way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. But then there's plenty of people that live their life that way, and that's just the only way they think about it. And they don't understand like the nuance and those gray areas that can't necessarily fit into box A or to box B. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Life is weird.
And from this painting I'm working on, it's kind of themed on the work that I've been doing. I've been practicing Kundalini yoga, which is really hard, but it's pretty rewarding. It's just like super deep meditation. This painting is kind of plays a little bit more on like who we are as people, emotionally and spiritually through different times. Like I know that I've been through phases of like nihilism and atheism, and I've been through periods of finding, for lack of a better term, kind of my spiritual identity. And I go through fucking ebbs and flows of anxiety and depression, and feeling, and not in a bipolar sense, but feeling really uplifted, happy, and just like high on life, And so it's like, through the deep meditating, I have a mentor. She's been kind of guiding me, and a lot of it's about accepting all of who you are. And so it's like kind of hard to kind of learn to accept the shittier sides of yourself, and it's easy to just kind of ignore that stuff. And so this painting is just like, everyone calls my paintings really morbid, but it's like, you can't have the light without the dark. So I've just really I think I'm an optimist, but I'm not gonna hide who I am, and it's you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to include everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're just describing what it is to be human. Some days are fucking awesome. Some days not so much.
Some days suck fucking dick.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can sort of affect how those days sort of affect you.
Yeah.
But some days are still going to just suck dick, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Accept it.
I heard somebody's mantra, that what they say to every situation. I think I might have said this on a podcast like a couple months ago or something. But they say to every situation that comes their way,
yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And it's like, that's just, it's a acknowledgement, and it's an acceptance of just, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I've always said, I mean, again, fucking having fun is more fun than not having fun.
Yeah.
That's sort of my way. That's my kind of mantra of thinking, like, even though this sucks right now, let's not make it worse.
Yeah.
So if you can just like have that positive attitude, even when it sucks, and be able to make jokes about a shitty situation. Like, I make dead dad jokes fairly often. If I didn't,
give me one.
Two dead dads walking to a bar, and bartender says, like, you guys look like skin and bones.
Hey, I like it.
Um,
Fuck yeah, that's perfect because it's also a bad dad joke. So it's perfect.
Oh, bad dad joke.
That's a dead dad joke right there.
Yeah. Dead bad dad joke.
Dead bad dad joke.
Kundalini genie dead bad dad joke. Dude, say that shit 3 times fast. I dare
Right.
you. No, but like, that's how my family is always sort of, I don't know, we're kind of, that's how you kind of get through things, is like, you got to acknowledge that, I wasn't making dead dad jokes a month after it happened. But as you sort of grow through your grieving process and you go to like more of the acceptance phase of things, the way I found it's easiest to accept it is to acknowledge it and put it out there. It's not like I'm bringing it up all the time, but if I can make a dead dad joke, then that means that I'm at least at a spot where I'm comfortable and I've accepted it. And yeah, it sucks, but I can at least have a good time with it and make a joke every once in a while. So.
Plus, if you own your pain, no one can fucking stick you for it.
Yeah, totally. If you roast yourself before anyone else gets the chance to roast you, then they have no ammunition. Because it's like, yeah, I already said shit that was worse than you would have brought up. It's a good it's a good suit of armor sometimes.
I was just saying that I always tell girls on the third date, I just make fun about how weird my penis looks, so that when they see it and they make fun of it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's almost like, and you can make it like, when you do that, I feel like I always I exaggerate how bad it probably is or something. So that way, when it's finally revealed, it's just like, oh, that's not as bad. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah.
We can work with this.
Not necessarily about my penis, but just in general. You just make it worse than it seems. And then when it's finally revealed, then everyone's like, oh, actually, that's way better. It's under promise and over deliver is essentially what you're doing. It's just like,
there you go.
I'm going to under promise everything. And then you're going to have super low expectations. And then I'm going to press the fuck out of you because you thought I wasn't going to do a good job.
Yeah.
Or my dick wasn't going to look good. Either way.
Dude, when I was in fucking Italy, we had to paint from the live models, nude models, and so many uncircumcised penises. I had to draw uncircumcised penises for like a year.
Yeah, and you posted them on the internet. If everybody wants to go see them, go to DStart at Instagram, or at DStart on Instagram. Scroll through. You can find some sketches of some fucking just uncut dongs.
Dude, it's so weird. It was so weird. Like, I mean, it was fine. It was whatever. But like, it's just like you kind of chuckle to yourself because you have to spend like at least an hour
staring at a dude's
drawing,
dick.
Someone's dick. Because if you get it wrong, everyone's just going to look at the dick.
Yeah.
And so you have to get it right.
That would be really funny though, if the entire piece was like super ultra realistic and then the dick was just like a cartoon drawing because you just didn't feel like looking at the dick for that long.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. It'd be so funny to see the teacher's reaction. Be like, you need to work on his dick. Work on the shaft. Work the shaft.
Okay, so my question would be, do you go for exactly what you see? Or do you maybe give him a little bit of street cred? Do you embellish the piece a little bit? You give him a little bit of extra girth or something?
Hey,
or do you just go for what you see?
Dude, we would get in trouble if we did that. They'd be like, that's not accurate.
You give him a. Did you see that picture that went around like when COVID first started? And it was like the joke was somebody would send you a link of like alerting you to some sort of news, and then you click the link and it's just that black dude with just a giant hog.
Yeah, I remember that.
You could have gotten that guy some street cred if you just painted that on there.
I wasn't thinking ahead of time.
That was pre-COVID.
That was pre-COVID.
I mean, it's never too late to return. You can go back to drawing dicks.
I could make a living drawing dicks.
What an interesting world that would be.
Yeah. That'd be weird if that was like a market. Yes, I'd like you to draw my husband's dick for me.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's probably not a huge market, but there's definitely a market for that. There's some.
What's that movie, Superbad, where he has like an addiction to drawing dicks?
Oh yeah, when he's in school and just drawing, I can't stop.
I had to avoid fucking penis-shaped food. You know what kind of food is shaped like a penis? The best kind.
The best kind. Hot dogs, Twinkies.
Yeah.
We got off on a pretty random dick tangent. I'm probably going to cut most or all of that out.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
I don't know.
TikTok is not very,
It was fun.
Dude, your screen is super frozen.
Is it? Oh, what the fuck? I'm glad you said that, though.
You look like a total dickhead right now. With like a flannel condom that just broke.
Is it cut or uncut?
What?
The dick. If I look like a dickhead, is it served?
Oh, you're very circumcised. You're very circumcised.
All right, thank God.
Yeah. Thank God. Yeah, uncircumcised penises are weird.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a pain having to clean out the fucking. Oh, what do they call that shit?
Oh yeah.
Oh, smegma.
What?
Oh, you don't smegma?
Hold on. Oh God, wait! I'm not gonna Google that. I'll just
I almost got you, dude. There we go. All right.
Hey.
So now that we're back to actually recording, so schmegma is
Where were we before we got fucking sidetracked as fuck?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. Oh, we were talking about you in Italy having to paint dicks, and I think you were going somewhere with that. But before that,
we were talking about like the potential, like the full spectrum of human that we are.
Oh, I did have this might not be totally congruent, but I did have something to say around something you were saying. That's an interesting. Let's get this clean, and I'm going to start. That way I can edit. And wipe. No, like that idea of you're never the same person, at every second of every day, like you're sort of adapting. Biologically that's true, because every 10 years your entire body is completely replaced, like every single cell in your body is being replaced. But that's also but that's also an interesting idea that some people believe is sort of the reincarnation. Is you're like reincarnated. It's not a one-time thing at the end of your life, but it's sort of you reincarnate yourself slowly as you change as a person. Because like I'm not the same person I was even 3 weeks ago. I definitely am not the same person I was a decade ago. No,
not at all. We were idiots a decade ago.
Well, I mean, that might not have changed too much. No, we were definitely way dumber a decade ago. And even just little things like, in high school, like I have always had social anxiety issues. And I never even realized that I had social anxiety until like maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, oh, so that's why I've been so fucking goddamn weird my entire life. I just have social anxiety and I'm very introverted and I can't just be around, in high school, you're around we were around 2,000 kids.
Yeah.
Every single day, all day.
Yeah. It was a shit show.
Yeah. That was too overwhelming for my adolescent brain to comprehend. And that's why I was just like, okay, well, I'm just not going to talk to fucking most people. And I just thought that was like, oh, I'm just a loser. It's like, oh no, I just had severe social anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And then now that I know that, I can address it and I can understand it and I can move on with my life.
Yeah.
Like I know
absolutely.
what's up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that definitely ties into some of the things that we were talking about like last episode, is that idea of reincarnation of, yeah, you're reincarnating yourself at every single moment of every single day based on the interactions that you have and based on the people you talk to and the things that you think by yourself privately. So, yeah.
There's this dude named Swedenborg, and he's like a Swedish dude who created like a new church. And his whole spiel is that you're going through successive reincarnations throughout one life. And I like the tie of like our cell generation also we're biologically going through these regenerations, these reincarnations, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and so I also was, I had myself a nice get really high and think about crazy things night a couple nights ago.
Nice.
And I was thinking about, I was just, I don't know, contemplating, what's it called? Not cognition. What is it? The awareness. What's the word for that? Say it again.
Consciousness.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, consciousness. And where essentially really does consciousness come from? And especially given the fact that all of our cells are being replaced all the time, including our neurons, that are what is essentially, as far as science can tell us, is forming consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Like if those cells are constantly being interchanged, where is the information being stored?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like a highly philosophical debate, and like obviously nobody knows. That's maybe the biggest mystery in the universe.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's still not a black and white thing necessarily. Like it's still consciousness, I guess, evolves on a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, single-celled organisms essentially can't really have any sort of consciousness. But what about like a trilobite? It has awareness of its surroundings because it has eyes and it has sensing organs. But where do we draw the line of where consciousness begins and where it's not really a thing? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know either, man. It's a tricky question, especially since, how can you, and obviously science is objective, but how can you find an objective versus subjective reading on that? Like, I think, dogs are conscious, but nowhere near the level of humans, I would suspect. Recently, I've been entertaining the idea of consciousness not just coming from the brain, but like what levels of consciousness come through other organs in the body. Like,
yeah, because we have neurons all throughout our body that are still essentially doing the same thing. They're still, I mean, that's why if you, stab your hand with a knife accidentally, it's neurons that are communicating that signal to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're essentially, it's the same cell that's within your brain. Maybe that could be something that we just don't quite understand in science yet.
Yeah. One of the biggest philosophical debates that I have when I think about consciousness is consciousness something that's developing in our brain, or is it something that our brain is aware enough to kind of pick up on as well? So
yeah, like
the debate of a web of consciousness.
Yeah, like where our brains are
like receptors.
Yeah, antenna that are able
Yeah.
to pick up on this. Yeah. No, that's an interesting thought as well. And if that's the case, then I think that is even more sort of that could influence more the idea of there's most likely other consciousness within the universe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like if we are a web of interconnected minds, which it can definitely seem like that sometimes. That makes it even more likely in my mind that there are other cosmological entities that are still connected in that same way. And a lot of
And
people
interdimensional too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what a lot of people think that, the traditional aliens that we see are, or like cryptids like Bigfoot or the Chupacabra or fucking Wolfman or the Loch Ness Monster. They might be interdimensional beings that either accidentally or purposefully sort of cross over the dimensional plane. I've always liked the way Neil deGrasse Tyson puts it, even though like I have not problems with Neil deGrasse Tyson, but there's a lot of stuff that he says that I absolutely don't agree with. But the one analogy he has for like the idea of dimensions is one thing he talks about how well Monsters Inc. actually sort of encapsulates the idea of going up to another dimension. When they just go through a doorway and then they're just gone. And then when you open that doorway up again, there's just nothing behind there. It's because that's left into another dimension. But the metaphor that he uses is, I mean, he says, think of an ant. An ant is kind of essentially a two-dimensional being. It is three-dimensional, but it lives on a two-dimensional plane for the most part. Like an ant on a table, he could see one piece of paper that's lying on the table and understand that that's there. But if you pick that piece of paper up off of the desk, off of that two-dimensional plane, it leaves the dimensions that he's able to see. Which is like a good metaphor, I think, that helps make it make more sense, is just we just don't have the receptors able to see into that next dimension. But then maybe if you eat enough ergot in a Lucis, then that allows your brain to sort of connect into that next dimension over.
Yeah, I think when I smoked DMT, I was definitely in felt like I was in a different dimension. Obviously, I was having some super psychedelic brain chemistry going on, but it was like, consciously, I was fucking in outer space. I was in another dimension for sure.
Yeah, and maybe that's where what religion has called God or angels or demons reside. And then maybe that now in modern times, we're in a more sort of scientific context society. That's now what we are calling aliens. So it could be one and the same thing. Like we're just using different verbiage to describe the same things that we're seeing. It's just we have a different context.
I might have brought this up in a past podcast, but there's like some like Indian and like ancient Egyptian mythologies allude to, us as humans, we have like 4 different selves. We have the physical self, the emotional self, and like the soul self, conscious self. And it could very well be that, if consciousness is a realm of its own that's non-material or immaterial, probably non-material, what is the sense of immortality in that sense, right? And then that also brings up, what is a sense of reincarnation, when that our conscious self is able to harmoniously fix up with an emotional and physical body again. I don't know. It's all very, very, very heady, and it's all very hypothetical, but it just kind of always fascinates me to think of, like, because obviously the expanse of our universe is unfathomably massive. There's this weird paradox. I forget the name of it, but
the Fermi
essentially
paradox.
Like we typically don't. What?
The Fermi paradox?
Maybe. What's the Fermi paradox?
That the universe is just essentially too big for aliens to be able to actually reach us. That, you know,
Exactly.
statistically there are aliens out there, almost guaranteed, if the universe is as big as we, you know it to be.
Mm-hmm.
There is guaranteed, just
Well,
based on
yeah,
probability, that there is other life, but it's too far away, and nothing can, according to Einstein, nothing can go faster than the speed of light. So they
yeah,
just
yeah.
would never be able to get to us.
Exactly. And like the universe is expanding at an ever fasting rate. And so essentially the universe is coming into these pockets. So our pocket of universe is like comprises of like 1% of the universe, which still has like billions of galaxies or millions or whatever, which have billions of stars and planets. But outside of that like little percent pocket, everything is expanding further than the speed of light already. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like the hope of us ever reaching that seems next to impossible unless we can create in dimensional or time warping travel.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think they call that the sphere of influence, of
Sphere of
basically,
influence. Yep.
yeah, there's a very, I mean, percentage wise, according, versus how big the universe is, there's a small percentage of stars that we could potentially interact with in the future or have interacted
Mm.
with. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
there's other stars that are just too far away, because anything that's more than 14.3 or whatever billion light years away from us is, the universe is only 14.3 billion years old. Even traveling at light speed, we would never be able to get to those distant
Yep.
objects. Yeah,
Yep.
and that's why they call it the observable universe. Just
Yep.
because, and the other thing that's crazy about like that is all the stuff that we can see that's the farthest away. The farthest away that we can see is 14.3 billion years old. Which do you remember that picture that they took with the um what is it, the Hadron telescope? No, that's the Hadron Collider. What's the telescope that they had? Yeah, the Hubble. They had
Yeah.
that one picture that came out like over a decade ago.
Trying to figure
They looked at, I think it's called Deep Space Probe or something. I'll look it up here while I'm
it.
talking. But it's they pointed the Hubble telescope at what essentially looked like just a dark blank piece of sky that we couldn't see any light from, and really focused in as far as the Hubble telescope could go. And they essentially found hundreds of thousands of like the pre-formations of the galaxies. So they're essentially, by doing that, because the light took 10, 12, 13, 14 billion years to reach us, you're essentially looking at, like, every star that you're looking at, you're essentially time traveling to what that star looked like, however billions of light years away that is.
Yeah, because it takes all those years for that light to reach us.
Yep, it's called a deep field. So if anyone wants to Google that, or maybe I might be able to edit that in. It's kind of a long video, but it's pretty intense. I'm sure I can edit something in.
And can you put that? Oh, okay, I see it. The impossible magnitude of our universe.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm gonna watch this later.
When it first came out, I remember getting high in college and watching it and losing my fucking mind. Just like,
Nice.
oh. But where were we going with that? We're sort of talking about aliens.
Conscious.
Yeah, that's the idea of okay, so yeah, it was the sort of the neural network that we're all sort of, potentially encompassed by. We're all essentially, I mean, that's essentially the teachings of most religions and most sort of shamanistic cultures, is we are all one. We are all one or one collective consciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
they all say it in sort of different ways and different phrasings, But essentially that seems like what the whole message is of all religion. And yeah, I don't know. I felt like I felt like I was building to a really good point, and then I just hit the top of a mesa, and then I just fell off the cliff.
We got a good view at the top of this mesa.
It was pretty good.
The collective consciousness, man.
Yeah.
I think it relates, kind of foreshadows when you think about the material world as well, how like we're just built up of a series of, cells and atoms, and it's like we're constantly in contact with everything, because even the air that's in between you and me right now, technically we can kind of see ourselves, picture ourselves as connected right now through just the fucking countless atoms from me to you right now. And I mean, it's kind of a little heady, but
but also not only atoms, we're also communicating to each other versus via like electrical waves. Like we're communicating over Wi-Fi throughout the internet.
Yep.
Which is also kind of crazy because
invention of man.
Yeah. Well, and how we sort of interact with radio signals and
discovery of man.
There's a lot of theories about how, I mean, I'm sure you heard the conspiracy theory that coronavirus was caused by 5G cell phone towers.
Yeah, I believed it. I totally agree.
I'm assuming you're being facetious, so I'm just going to take it.
I'm being facetious as fuck. Yeah.
But there is some idea that, like, I mean, our brains communicate essentially, like the way our brains function is it's electrical ones and zeros going between all of the neurons constantly all the time. And electrons are going to be affected by the sort of the radio waves and like the EMPs, like electromagnetics within like the world that you live in. And that's one thing is like there's been a lot of data showing that bee populations are getting disrupted by cell phone signals and things like that, because they sort of communicate in that hive mind sort of world. And I think we've talked about this in another podcast, but there's a lot of people that point to maybe a theory that we used to speak a lot more sort of intuitively or communicate more intuitively, as opposed to necessarily using our words and vocal communications, where like we were able to pick up more subtly on facial cues and just kind of body language and what you could call more sort of psychic communication. Not that I would say we were ever psychic, but the way you see animals kind of able to communicate and sort of show danger, like monkeys use vocalizations to warn for like different sort of predators, but also monkeys are constantly, like, if you see them, they're constantly looking around and looking at what the other ones are doing, and if they see one sort of like start to bolt and start to kind of be nervous, that heightens everyone else's senses in the entire sort of community of the monkeys. And maybe we've lost that through our reliance on communication via language, and maybe we're increasing that the more we add technology into the system, and the more we rely on being able to communicate. Like, how many people communicate via emojis most of the time? They can't even type out the word anymore. They just want to send like a heart, thumbs up, whatever. We might be dumbing ourselves down from what our highest potential might be.
I'd say we're pretty damn good at that, and I think technology allows us to be lazy in a multitude of ways, and that kind of can digress our communication. But I think emojis remind me of art. Like, an image says 1,000 things, and so like a thumbs up is a quick confirmation, and it's and I think that there's a give and take, right? So it's like, I mean, like I remember when the whole acronyms of the LOL and stuff came out, I was just like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening here? Right. TTYL, but like
BRB,
Right?
TTYL,
Yeah. But I
OMG,
think emojis. I think emojis
TYSM.
are kind of an interesting form of communication.
Yeah, I realized once you started talking that I picked a bad thing to target, because actually I think emojis are actually really interesting. It's almost
Mhm.
like, Egyptian hieroglyphics or something like that.
Yeah.
So I picked
Except esoteric. Everyone can use them.
yeah, but I picked a
Yeah.
bad thing to pick on, and now I'm recanting that initial statement. So we're
But
gonna go ahead and
I
cut that out, so I
fair.
don't look like an idiot. No, I'm just kidding. We're leaving it in.
I like what you're saying though. I was listening to a podcast a little while ago. This podcast called Mysterious Universe. They're kind of way out there, but they have some really good episodes. And one of them was talking about this Malaysian tribe that still is not really in contact with the outside world. They kind of do their own thing. And they communicate. The people who go out and study them always are like, oh my God, they're telepathic. They always seem to know when we're coming. They always seem to know the right things to do. No, but long story short, one of these guys in the 60s spends extensive time with the tribe and has like a shamanistic experience with them. And so they're like, oh, you can now go through the rites of becoming a shaman and understand our ways. And so he is in the forest with these guys for fucking months and months and months. And essentially they just teach him how to stop thinking and be extremely present. And when he is able to tap into that, it's like the jungle is like communicating with him. Like, he understands what plants he can use, what plants he can't use. And so the story of like, why do you always know I'm coming to the village? And he's like, well, I just sit here. I wake up and I just kind of follow my feet and I sit here and I just hang out and listen to the forest. And the forest always just kind of tells me to hang out. And by the time you're here, then I know why I came here. And so it's like, this tribe uses these really, really intuitive ways of communication, right? And it's like, how much of that, we obviously have cut that out of our lives, right? We're a technology forward, very rational minded, thought processing civilization. And that's what we've built our world on.
Yeah, no, I think, I totally agree with that. And I think it's, the way I would describe that idea, I guess, would be sort of an emphasis on listening over talking. You know what I mean? Like, you go out into the forest and you just listen and you just absorb what the forest is maybe telling you. And you maybe not know what's going to happen, but yeah, in our society, I mean, it's ironic that I'm saying this because I'm literally on a podcast where you just talk the whole time. Our society focuses, I feel like, more on everybody talking and nobody really listening. You know what I mean?
Very individualistic, ego-based societies.
Yeah.
Capitalism
And social media especially has sort of steamrolled that idea even further of everybody's a celebrity. Everybody, if you have a TikTok and you get 5 million views on each one of your videos, that's a social like sort of a platform, or you made it because you got all these people to look at you, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. And again, I say this understanding the total crazy irony of saying this on a podcast, because essentially doing a podcast is saying like, hey, everybody, listen to my thoughts on things. But I'm trying to, I don't know. I don't feel like doing something like this is the same sort of attention garnering thing, I guess. Because I do this more for just the fun of talking. Like, how often do people sit down with like their good friends and just have an hour and a half, 2 hour long conversation about philosophical ideas, religion ideas, history,
uncircumcised
whatever.
penises? Yeah.
Uncircumcised penises for
Schmegma.
so long. I need to get a Patreon page where I can just upload just the penis talk of the podcast.
Random cuts of dick jokes and
Yeah.
I like that.
But like for real, like how often do most people in this world actually sit down and like just have a conversation long form, like one-on-one with someone? It doesn't really happen. So that's more of the reason why I feel like this is enjoyable and it's fun.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's enriching and it's also informative because I have my own thoughts on things. And then when I bring those up and then you come at me with another sort of perspective, like I came at that conversation just a couple minutes ago of like, fuck emojis, emojis are dumb. And then you were like, oh, actually emojis I think are this. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I was fucking wrong as shit about that. Emojis are kind of interesting. So it's like, it helps me learn.
Yeah.
And it's, it's fulfilling. Whereas I feel like doing a lot of other social media kind of stuff for a lot of people isn't quite so thought out and fulfillment based. It's more just like how many views, how much attention, how many likes, how many comments.
And it becomes like a vicious cycle. Like they got to keep making content. They got to keep their followers happy and entertained. And it's like they're competing for like a 15-second spot, and you got to do it multiple times a week. And like, sounds exhausting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, it can be kind of exhausting to try and make sure I can get this podcast out when I want to put it out on a weekly basis. And I was so busy on Thursday night and I'm trying to put them out on Fridays now. I ended up having to stay up till like 2:00 in the morning editing stuff to get it, ready to post in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it can be tiring at times, but again, like we were saying at the very beginning, you got to take the good with the bad.
Absolutely.
Like recording the podcast is the most fun. I love this. This is great.
Yeah.
When I have to sit there and listen to myself make fucking arduous points that don't really make sense, and I have to figure out a way, like, do I leave that in for authenticity? Do I take it out because I feel insecure that I'm sounding like an idiot? Or if somebody says something that's like, okay, maybe we shouldn't put that in. And like, that's the arduous part, is sitting there and like re-listening to it and like overthinking stuff. But, yeah, it's still overall, I don't know. It's cool.
Fuck yeah, it is. It is fun. I like, this is my 4th or 5th time on. I like it too.
I think you might be
I like having these conversations.
You might be the most guested guest.
And the most guested guest. I'm honored.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm starting to fade.
I was literally just thinking, I feel like we lost the momentum. And I'm also starting to fade. Because, I mean, we've been going for fucking over 2 hours.
Yeah. No, that was fun, man. I'm glad we did it. I enjoy our talks very much. I cherish them.
Yeah, me too.
Our topics, like you said, like we have similar interests, and it's always fun to pick your brain and see what avenues you've been digging into and share mine, and like where they cross, and like we come to like these greater understandings. It's fun, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. No, I'm stoked.
That's what it's all about, baby.
That might be what the podcast
also
title is.
Your mustache is fierce,
dude.
Fierce.
I'm going hard. I didn't even realize I cut it like 3 days before November started, and then I remembered, oh, this is a thing that everybody does. So last night, out of a total of, at one point there was 6 or 7 of us in a circle, at least dudes. 5 of the dudes had mustaches, and then I felt subconscious or self-conscious, maybe a little subconscious as well, but mostly self-conscious of just like, oh, we all look like assholes. There's 5 dudes in a circle that all have mustaches. Like this isn't, the balance is off. This is weird. We should either
1 mustache per group, guys. No.
Yeah, kinda 1 or 2. But then when you look around and everyone has a mustache, and first of all, I've been rocking mustaches since before any of these fucks caught on. So suck my dick. I was early to the game. But yeah, it just feels weird. Like, I don't know. if you're, what are we in a gang? What are we in, like we're the Boston Mustache Gang, and we're gonna fucking beat the Sharks up in fucking West Side Story because we all have mustaches. Yeah, the mustachios.
Yeah.
We're mustachioed men that eat pistachios, and that's what we do.
You guys hate anybody who is what are they fucking called? You hate those fucking what the fuck are they called? Not Mormons.
Amish.
The Amish, because they do everything but the beard.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
You know, so your mustaches are protests to the Amish.
Yeah, we actually do an annual trip where we go to Pennsylvania and we just beat up Amish on the streets. That's what we do.
Nice.
That's you non-mustachioed fucks, you.
Dude, I gotta send you a dumbass video that I'm super proud of that I made like last Christmas. Did I send you that video of phases of beard shaving?
I think you showed it to me, but if you send it to me,
okay,
I will try and edit it in as the ending of this podcast because I think that would be awesome.
I might have deleted it, but I was very proud of it. I don't make a lot of videos, so when I make them, I'm like, yeah, oh, I got it, baby.
Ooh, yes. Send that shit this way, and that'll be the outro to the podcast. When all was but a dream of inconception.
Woo!
Strong little boy.
All right. Dude, the starting and the fucking ending of podcasts is the weirdest thing. I don't know when to jump in or what to say or how to wrap it up in a proper way. And I'm just going to keep rhyming until I run out of time. And then the things will come and the things will find their way to the path to the great divine. And that's your outro, ladies and gentlemen.
I like it.
I don't know, dude. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast is basically saying that I don't know. And I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to grow. Nobody knows. This guy doesn't know. I don't know. Who knows? And those are words to live by and to grow by. All right, from everyone here at No Fun Zone Podcast. We'll catch you later.